Kata for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoka Vairocana Maha Mudra Mani Padma Javala Pravataya
If everyone could please rise, we'll recite and chant the three refuges together. First in Sino-Korean and then in English. Chisim Wimyang Ne Sibam Samse Chewang Chahe Samjo Ilche Chi
Nyang Ne Si Bang Sam Se Che Ma Cha He Sang Jo Il Che Chi Sim Quim Nyang De Si Bang Sam Se Che Ma Cha He Sang Jo Il Che
So now repeat after me in English. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
And realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
So now please take your seats again, and we'll have another 5 minutes of meditation and then a talk. So please follow along with me with some gentle stretching exercises to end our meditation today. Indeed, it's a part of our meditation. So please make yourself comfortable. Only the tops of the fronds on the willow trees blow in a breezeless day today. Walking to practice, feeling the crunch of mulch and dirt on the walkway, cause and effect with chickens scratching. And a fat squirrel prepares himself for the contemplation of the long winter. Thank you for coming today from the 10 directions, and good morning.
Good morning, Hayun.
My name is Hayun. I am a Dharma teacher here at the temple. And are there people here for the first time today? Okay. And I know that there are some people, okay, great. Some people are kind of newish. And then there are those of us who have been around a long time. I'm going to start by talking about, or I want to talk about something that we just did earlier, which is taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Is it not on?
It's not on.
It's not on.
It might be on
Mute, mute, mute. Is that better?
Oh.
Okay.
Better?
Better?
Yeah. Let's see.
It was on mute.
More.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I would never have known. My name is Hayun. I'm a Dharma teacher here. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what we just did earlier together, which is taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So for those of you who are new, and those of you who are not so new, when we do many things in our culture, like trying the saxophone for the first time or playing basketball, it's not an advantage to be new. But in our Buddhist tradition, there's a lot of advantages to being new because you're hearing things with really fresh ears and a fresh mind and like, what on earth is that? What are they talking about? As opposed to those of us who recite the 3 refuges 1, 2, 3 more times a day. And we have to sort of always remind ourselves the preciousness of them. Whereas if you're new, you might have lots of questions, but you're like a sponge just taking it in. So I would say to treasure your beginner's mind if you're new here today. So let's parse it out a little bit. The first line is, I go for refuge to the Buddha and resolve with all beings, I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment and realize the great way. What on earth does that mean? At one level, yeah, I mean, we do take refuge in the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, who lived 2,600 years ago. It's easy to see the Buddha as sort of the person sitting behind me, or some sort of saintly figure, or even a godlike figure. But I want you for a moment to really try to think of the Buddha as a human being, like we're human beings. He was born in a town. His mom died a week after he was born. He was raised by his father and his aunt. He learned to walk and learned to talk and learned to poop and pee just the same way we do. What drove the Buddha, though, he had a lot of pressure when he was a young fellow to conform. His society was changing just like ours is. It was moving from an agrarian age into the Iron Age. So there was just a lot more happening, more people moving to cities. The world was changing, and it's a lot like our world is changing today. His father wanted him to be a certain way. I think some here can kind of relate to that he felt a lot of pressure to be a certain way, to live a certain life. He wanted to please those who he loved. The issue is the Buddha had a deep yearning. to live in a way that was larger than what the world for him, around him expected him to do. We can really picture him as a young man, really trying to conform himself to the world that society said he should live. The people he loved most in his life, his family, his friends, his community wanted to live. He didn't want to disappoint them. But at the end of the day, even though he tried really hard to please them, he followed this calling that he had. And it was a calling that was something greater than just, and I won't say just, but simply just living the life that was prescribed for him. He knew that he wanted to not be so comfortable. And so he went out into the wilderness of spiritual practice. The calling that the Buddha had is something called bodhicitta, which is a term that, I'm going to read it. It's to know that there is a life somehow beyond the one we're living, and to not be satisfied with a life in which we get by with the simple answers to profound questions. The Buddha asked himself, like, what is it? What is this? Why am I here? He really delved into that very deeply. And so in our lives, being here at the temple today shows us that we also have the seed of that bodhicitta in our own lives, of sort of asking those deeper questions, not being content just to fall into the ways that those around us prescribe us to fall into, but to really ask those deep questions for which our minds really don't have any answers. That's an interesting concept for those of us who live in a modern world of wanting to find answers at our fingertips on Google, to know that there are some that don't have any answers. And even more than that, this kind of questioning requires us to stand alone. You know, we have to be willing to say to people like, I really want to follow a spiritual path. I really want to learn about myself and about the deep questions that I have and about the world around me. And to do that, we need a lot of courage, because when I look at the Buddha's life, one thing that stands out to me is the courage that he had in saying, I have to find myself. I have to find the answers to this question, even if it means disappointing you. And I think that kind of courage is something that we really can emulate. We have to have the courage and faith in this phrase from the refuges. I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment and realize the great way. The Buddha obviously lived as an awakened being. But what is a heart of enlightenment anyway? I wrote down a few things, and I actually want to say at the outset how much I appreciate the words of wisdom of other teachers, some of whom are present today, some of them are out there in the universe, but there's not a lot of ideas that are brand new. We just take our own little piece of it. But a heart of enlightenment, what I've come up with is being free from self-centeredness, even if only for a moment. Being aware of our own behavior and its consequences for others, even if only for a moment. Being generous, being able to forgive, even if only for a moment. Having that equanimity, which is that balance, that gives us a broader perspective so that we're not so that we understand when we're beginning to crave for things or push things away, even if only for a moment. You know, there are the big enlightenments that are like halos around a person's head and all, but I really believe that all of us have the potential for moment-to-moment enlightenment. And I think that that's what this phrase gets at, is cultivating that heart of enlightenment so that we can begin to see things with that heart. When we take refuge in the Buddha, we're really taking that we're using that courage to see that potential in ourselves, that we all have that ability to do that and to understand that and to actually pull it inside of us rather than constantly doubting and judging ourselves. We looked at that. There's one Korean Zen master, Songchol Sunim, who said something that I really love. He says, "We live with faith in the Buddha pouring out from our sincere heart." I like that image of pouring out from our sincere heart, because that's really what gets us there. It's not how much we know, how many people we know. It's really our own sincere hearts. So the next phrase is, "I go for refuge to the Dharma and resolve with all beings. I will penetrate the teachings and discover and uncover oceans of wisdom." One image that I've heard is if the great Buddha way is the ocean, that the Dharma is the stream leading to the ocean. And that the Dharma also is maybe the little boat we're all in, going to the ocean, rowing together in our Prajna Dharma boat. And a lot of the teachings of the Buddha, so this is actually, part of this is the teachings of the Buddha itself. When you look at the Buddha's sort of scriptures, it's like this big, it's huge, but it's the teachings of the Buddha, and oftentimes they're really comforting and they sort of reflect where we are and what we want to hear. And sometimes they're really uncomfortable. And when they get really uncomfortable, it's about those issues we most have to look at ourselves. The issues of, why do I crave all of this? Why do I want to push this away? What is that concept about no self? And it's kind of scary, right? I mean, it's a world that we're not used to, and we're certainly not raised that way. One teacher put it, we have to learn to love the scriptures even when they rip our skin right off. And I definitely know from experience that some of those teachings can rip your skin right off. But the important thing about the Dharma is to not turn away in fear, to have that courage to really uncover things, discover things. Throughout the centuries, that grouping of Buddhist scriptures and teachings have included thousands of teachers, not just the Buddha himself. So it's grown and grown and grown, and there are many teachers, but it's not about taking refuge in a group of teachings or scriptures that are kind of old and ancient. Those point us to the truth, but it's really about that vow to search for the truth inside of ourselves, and to understand that we have that inside of ourselves all the time. One image that I found that I really love is, we know intuitively what leads us to suffering, what leads us to happiness, in the same way that a seed, when you plant it, knows the direction, how to go. It goes up. It does not say to itself, which way do I go? To turn into a sprout, it just goes up naturally. And I think when we follow our own sort of moral intuition, we see that too coming to life. So then there's the going to refuge in the Sangha. Yeah. You know, it's funny. When I first started, I knew the Buddha was kind of a historical figure. I came here, I saw the Buddha. People talked about the Buddha. The Dharma, I actually knew about first. There was a television show, early part of the 2000s, called Lost. And they had something called the Dharma Initiative. And I was like, ooh, what's that? And so that was my first sort of encounter with the Dharma. And then I came and began to understand what it was all about. But for those of you who have just come here for the first time, you might have an experience like that. And the word Sangha was something I actually didn't understand at all. It seemed very, very foreign and alien. but in a way that it's the most comforting of the three jewels. You know, you can practice on your own. There are thousands of apps on meditation at this point, and thousands of podcasts. And so you can sit in your room alone and meditate, and you can probably do quite well. I'm not discouraging you from doing that. You could also make the decision to say, I'm going to go live in the Himalayas in a cave. And when I feel like I have enlightenment, I'm going to come out of that cave. And so you could do that. But then what happens when you come home out of your cave and you sort of hit that Thanksgiving dinner with all the relatives and the issues of politics come up and not everyone agrees? You know, you haven't, as you've gone along, tested your own path and your own progress. And so you hit those kinds of experience, and that's where the spiritual rubber meets the road, really, you know, those kinds of moments. And so having a Sangha, practicing as a Sangha, as we're all coming together today, and, you know, just for your information, there are other opportunities throughout the week to practice in smaller groups here at the temple too. But practicing together gives us that unique opportunity of being together in ways where we can measure our spiritual progress. We help each other to do that, and that's not always comfortable too, either. There is a Korean device which Haju Sunim talks about, which is a manual potato peeler. And if you throw one potato into the potato peeler, it just bounces all over the place and never gets peeled. But as you put other potatoes in, more potatoes in, suddenly all the potatoes come out beautifully peeled. And I think that the resonance of that for Sangha is that it's not always like this gentle, flowing, peaceful, easy feeling, but through those kinds of working together, practicing together, eating together, getting to know each other a little better, that we actually can measure our own spiritual growth in a way that makes sense, so that when we do hit that Thanksgiving table, we can say, this actually came up before. I remember this feeling. I know this feeling, and I didn't behave so well before, but now I want to behave a little better. Yeah. And I put down a few things. I personally gained a huge appreciation of our Sangha. And I had a few things that I wrote down. Who else will be able to comprehend my getting up insanely early to do 108 prostrations in the morning? Who else will understand my spending my vacation time staring at the floor in front of me for 8 hours a day? Or worse yet, a wall. Who else would be okay with my wearing these baggy gray clothes all day long? So it's what I'm trying to get at is that there's a warmth and an understanding of being able to be with others who also have that yearning in their lives, who also want to sort of think, what are the answers? And doing it together gives us strength. And there's certainly beautiful times for individual introspection, but the Sangha keeps us honest. So what about that term Buddha lands? Well, this needs a little unpacking. Ultimately, the Sangha, we work together, but ultimately we're one body, we're one mind. That's our objective, is to move together in that interconnected way so that we can not only learn from each other, but we can develop an awareness together. And through that awareness, we get a better handle on those things inside of us which cause those emotions like competition, jealousy, disharmony, the things that come up in day-to-day life all the time. How do we deal with them as one? How do we sort of approach that? And if we can do that and really try to look at our Sangha as developing those Buddha lands, well then, Buddha lands can take root wherever we are in the world. that it's not just about being here. It's about all of the environments and all the places that we can be throughout the world. Yeah. So in essence, it's having faith in the path itself. It's learning the teachings, not only the scriptural teachings, but the way we can operate together. We're very fortunate here to have some really amazing teachers in our midst who can help us along the path. And it's only when you're not in those environments that you actually understand how incredibly fortunate we are. And it's finding the support of a Sangha and the guidance of those teachers. That's the triple jewel, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And I think the most important thing is having the courage to have the faith in yourself that you have the capacity to wake up, that you have the capacity to become a Buddha, that that's inside of every single one of us, and that we have the ability to grow just like that sprout grows out of the soil. I wanted to read something by, oh gosh, this is a really famous Zen master that some of you probably know of. His name is Lin Chi, and he's of the Rinzai tradition. He says, when students fail to make progress, where is the fault? The fault lies in the fact that they don't have faith in themselves. If you don't have faith in yourself, then you'll be forever in a hurry trying to keep up with everything around you. You'll be twisted and turned by whatever environment you're in, and you can never move freely. But if you can just stop this mind that goes rushing around moment by moment looking for something, then you'll be no different from the patriarchs and Buddhas. Do you want to get to know the patriarchs and Buddhas? They are none other than you. So in some ways, this is a really basic topic. But on the other hand, I feel like it has so many different facets and so many different complexions to it. And growing in it is something that is not a path that we take without courage. And we have some time. So I'd like to invite you maybe to talk about a place in your life, a time in your life where you have felt your spiritual path helping you in your environment. Is there a time, maybe it was a Thanksgiving table, maybe it was a family reunion, maybe it was a work meeting where you actually said, aha, I'm not triggered the way I was, or maybe a little bit less, or maybe I'm not going to speak about it. So I'd like to pass this around and see if others have comments.
Hi everybody, nice to be here. So to answer the question, I got out of a behavioral health hospital yesterday, and one of the things that was amazing about it was yoga, and it kind of got me to a space where I'm like, open to receiving like the gifts of the universe, and open to enlightening my spirit and going towards healing. So, yeah.
So I was working as a nurse back like 4 years ago. I formally became a Buddhist, and there's a saying: nurses don't buy Band-Aids. Because when you're not going to take them home, you have plenty at home. But once I took the refuges, and I had to think, I thought, wait a minute, we're not supposed to steal things. I'm not stealing. When I was taking home pens from work or Band-Aids, maybe that's a little thing. But I bought Band-Aids for the first time in years after this.
I remember Hadji Sunam saying once that parenting is your practice for some of us. And I find that that's definitely been the case as my kid has become a tween, is learning to pause and, not react and sort of really just practice mindfulness and compassion when sometimes there's a lot of hostility coming from a 12-year-old. So that's definitely become a big part of my day-to-day practice.
I've spent a lot of my professional life doing interviews, so I thought I was this great listener, and then I realized I was really bad at it. And
Could you please speak up a little bit?
yeah, let me take a second. So there we go. If you didn't hear me, I've done a lot of interviews in my life professionally, and I thought I was a great listener, and I was a crappy listener. And I found that sitting and having to listen to the silence and whatever that brings up has helped me finally learn to be a better listener. And that carries through whether it's working or in the Sangha or with my family. And parenting is still my practice, and my kids are 26 and 31. So you don't get to hang up that, that hat. And that slowing down and not constantly needing to say, something, make a comment, has been a real game changer in my entire life. It's so thank you, Sandra.
So for the past 2 years, I've noticed a lot of anxiety when I'm working. Like the work went out fine, but it just felt like I had like so much pressure on myself and high expectations, and I kind of zoned out, do the work and kind of separate myself from the anxiety and the work result. Over the past couple months, though, I've kind of like when I'm working, I started like exploring why am I feeling anxious, like I just put a lot of pressure on myself, like internalizing the expectations of others, and kind of taking a step back and like understanding like the pressure I'm putting on myself, like what others want from me. Just like accepting that has been a game changer and kind of relieving my anxiety while working, just kind of like being more mindful during the practice of it.
Thank you, Tong-san. So I'd like to close with a different version of the three refuges. We were given this book in Korea by the folks who are with the Hanma School. And it's become one of my favorite books, but it's not available in the United States on Amazon or anything. So I'm trying to take really good care of it, but kind of like the Velveteen Rabbit, I know it's getting little things. So I don't know, I guess I have to sacrifice perfect to have well loved. So let's put our hands in Hapchang, sincere heart, and I'm going to ring the bell. And just take this in and listen as I read it to you. I take refuge in Buddha, who is one with all, in every place and every dimension. I take refuge in the truth, ever present throughout every realm. I take refuge in the place for learning the truth, which is every place. Okay, thank you all. Do we have some announcements today?
We do.
Magamuk.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Magamok.
It's good to see everybody here, and it's good to practice together. And if you have any questions after the service, you can ask any of us wearing gray, and we'll try to answer your questions. And if you're interested in getting our weekly email bulletin, there's a sheet in the foyer where you can sign up to be put on our mailing list, and we'll send you a copy of our email bulletin. We also invite you to pick up a copy of our winter schedule, which looks like this, and it's also on the table out there, and that has the events that are coming up. And so I'll just go through a few of those events now. We typically offer an introductory meditation course from time to time, and the introductory meditation course runs on 5 consecutive Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 8:30. And so the next round of the introductory meditation course begins on January 12th. And then we offer yoga on Tuesday evenings, and that goes from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. So you're welcome to come for yoga. And there is an intensive 5-day retreat coming up, year-end retreat, which is called the Youngman Junction. It will be held in Toronto and Chicago and Mexico City. And it'll go from December 27th through January 1st. So contact us or talk to us if you're interested in traveling for that. If you haven't been to a retreat before, we recommend that you start with a 1-day retreat instead of a 5-day retreat. And so our next 1-day retreat is coming up on Saturday, February 25th. So you'll be hearing more about that in the future. Thank you to everyone who has contributed so far to our fall fundraising appeal. We're looking to raise $40,000 to pay for a number of things. One of them is our water abatement and excavation project to make sure that our basements do not flood. The second thing is to augment the scholarship fund that we have. And then third is for general upkeep of our buildings and vehicles. So there's donation cards that look like this on the table outside. You can pick one up, or you can go online and make a donation at our website. Are there groups that are meeting today? Recovery Dharma? Yes.
Recovery Dharma will be meeting at noon in the Temple building, which is the Yellow House next door.
Okay, so noon in the Yellow House next door in the Temple building for Recovery Dharma. And then our practice period meeting is today also. So in preparation for the practice period meeting, as you're getting ready to go, if you can take your mat and cushion, and if it's on this side, please stack the mats in the corner and the cushions over here, except for the first row. We're going to leave the first row in place on both sides of the carpet. And then for the mats and cushions over there, we'd like to have those put on the platform over there. So thank you for helping with that. And then the temple is supported entirely by your kind donations of time and money. There's a fishbowl for monetary donations, or you can go online to our website at zenbuddhisttemple.org. And another way to volunteer your time is to be a greeter. If you would like to welcome new people and help orient them at this morning service or at the afternoon service. We have an afternoon service at 4 p.m. twice a month. And also shoveling snow. Snow is going to be coming up, so that's another opportunity. Talk to us if you'd like to get on the list of people to do shoveling when it snows. Thanks.
Okay, so let's all stand up in front of our mats and cushions or in front of our chairs and do 3 vows together.